Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be talking about the 8.13 PBE video, or like what's going on in the 8.13 patch and what's going on with the new AAtrox. I just accidentally tried to upload this, and I started the stream up again on accident, and someone came in. It's like, you're streaming again? I thought you ended. Yeah, I did end. I just pressed the wrong button. So we're gonna shoot this again. I was just a few minutes in. So this video is going to be containing forward-looking things on the PBE for what might come out next week. As I started last week, I'm going to be doing a series where every other week when there's not a patch, I just talk about what's going on in the current meta, what I'd like to see change and updated, and then what's going on the PBE itself. So just keep in mind that all of these changes may not go through to the live patch notes. Be sure to tune into the channel. I always do the patch notes video on Tuesday, like right before the patch comes out on Wednesday. They release the actual notes on Tuesday. And it's very important, if you watch other channels as well, that you watch content, if you're trying to get the real up-to-date information about the patch notes, that you watch the actual patch notes video from people who wait, rather than putting out something that looks like a patch notes video 2 or 3 days before it comes out. Because sometimes big things change. So for instance, last patch, you know, a lot of these videos that came out early before the patch notes were saying, watch out for Spear of Sojin, it's overpowered, and watch out for Atmas and all this, and it never came out, right? So just keep that in mind, that a lot of the stuff that you see here might change. It may not be in the actual patch notes, but nevertheless, it is fun to think about, sort of plan ahead, and just sort of speculate about what might happen. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. So be sure to check out the timestamps if you're interested. They'll be in the description. You can also find access to this Google Doc as well. If you like this type of content, be sure to check out the main channel as well, the Strategy Professor on YouTube. There are a ton of tier lists, guides, you know, topical videos, theoretical videos, coaching sessions, just tons and tons of content. And then we stream every night starting around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have an awesome community. Come by and check it out sometime if you want. Okay, well, let's go ahead and talk about sort of what's going on here. So I'm going to talk really quickly about the meta and sort of what's going on in the meta, and then we'll talk about the PBE changes, starting with AAtrox and then moving into the other stuff as well. Okay, so ADC champs are still viable. That's the most important thing to keep in mind, because I've seen all of these doomsayers and naysayers all over YouTube. Content creators like, oh my god, AD carry's dead, AD carry can't do anything anymore. No, it's not. Right? No, it's just statistically that's not true, right? There's diversity. Diversity does not mean that AD carry is dead just because now there are other options, right? There's just more diverse options. So if you look at low analytics over the last 7 days, which is since this, you know, new meta started to emerge, we look at, you know, the win rates here. Now, if we throw out everything that's under 2%, because that means that's primarily just played by specialists, it's not that popular, you don't see it all the time. If we throw out everything under 2% play rate, you know, we've got Misfortune up here. That's an 80 carry. Here's the next one. Okay, Ziggs, not an 80 carry. Then we have Draven, 80 carry. Lucian, 80 carry. So that's 3 of the top 4 that are 80 carry. Mordekaiser's not. Jhin, so that's 4 out of 6 of the highest winning champions are 80 carry right now. And if we look to, so that's in terms of win rate. If we look in terms of pick rate, it's still all 80 carries, guys. It's still all 80 carries, right? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So out of 10, the top 9 most played champions in the 80 carry position are actual 80 carries. So the top 4 out of the 6 4 out of the 6 highest win rate champions are 80 carries, and 9 out of 10 most popular champions are 80 carries, right? And they aren't destroyed, right? Like, how many of these, you know, top 9 have over a 50% win rate? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess he's not really that. I'm rounding Jinx up, so 5. So 5 out of those top 9 have a 50% win rate, which is okay. Considering they're played this much, you know, I think that's still pretty good. So either way you look at it, 80 carries are still around. If you look at the pro scene here, look at the ADC slot, 3 of the 4 top most played champs, you know, for champs that aren't played, you know, 1 game, right? So we've got Lucian. We can look at, like, most picks here. There we go. Lucian, Ezreal, Kai'Sa, Varus, right? So 4 of the top 5 champions are all 80 carries, and some of them have a good win rate. Some of them don't. Some of them do. But they're popular. People are playing them, right? I mean, Xayah is not, like, mega popular, but she's got a really high win rate of 73%. And some of these goofy picks aren't necessarily really high win rate either, right? So if we look at Vlad, for example, very popular in the pro scene right now, only a 39% win rate. And this is among all regions, too. This is LCK, LPL, Europe, North America, all of these places. This is aggregate data from every single meta. Okay? So it's just kind of all over the place. Some of the goofy stuff works, right? If we look at, like, Mordekaiser, he's got a pretty high win rate. Yasuo has a pretty high win rate. But some of it doesn't work, right? If you look at Vlad, it's only a 39% win rate. Lulu's 40%. Brand has been all the rage. Everyone's like, oh, Brand's overpowered bot lane. He's got a 38% win rate. So it's diverse. It's not like you have to go for a bruiser every single time bot lane. Most of these champions aren't even bruisers. Like, the only thing you could even classify as a bruiser here would be Mordekaiser, probably. And a lot of people wouldn't even feel comfortable with that, I guess Yasuo you might call a bruiser. He's really more of a fighter, though. But either way, like, things that aren't ranged mages are still very rare. Ranged mages or ranged AD carries, melee stuff, is still extremely rare in the bot lane. So don't get psyched out by everyone saying, oh, it's the end of the world. It's got to be all bruisers by it. AD carries are all dead. There's nothing going on. It's just more balanced. And keep in mind that in past metas, if we look at, let's look at Season 7 here. I haven't actually done this, but we'll look at it on camera here. If you look at Season 7, right? Throughout the whole season, there was a very large pecking order, right, between what was popular and sort of what had a decent win rate, right? So, like, we had Varus, Ashe, Jhin, Caitlyn, Kalista. Now, there was a bunch of different metas in this season. Tristana. But all 80 carries were not viable, right? People keep saying this magical thing like, oh, it's just ruined all 15 80 carries. There's never been a meta where all 15 80 carries were viable at the same time, right? Champions like Caitlyn starved them all out. Everyone was playing Caitlyn or Jhin or Varus. Twitch is never really that popular. Sivir's never that popular. Lucian was never that popular in pro play. Misfortune, not that popular. Jinx was picked 20 times. Pro scene. Vayne, Draven, Corki. All of these champs were not really that viable, right? Like last season, if you really wanted to play, you were playing one of the top 5 champs. And this is for the entire season, but if we looked at different patches, in every patch, there's only probably like 5 picks that account for like 90% of the champions played in the 80 carry role, even when it was all 80 carries. So there's never been a magical meta where all of them were viable. And so now, are there still good 80 carries you can play? Yes. You can still play, if we're looking at kind of the pro scene here. Oh, this is all of Season 8, not Summer Split. Summer Split, there we go. Lucian's still good. Kai'Sa's still good. Like, yeah, her win rate in solo queue fell down a little bit. She's still over 52%. Ezreal doesn't have a great win rate, but if you're good on Ezreal, you can make that pick work. So there's 3 right there, and then Draven's been seeing some play in pro play. I don't know how well he's been doing. Not that hot, apparently. But there are still a few. Xayah's, got a good win rate. So there's at least 4, like, pretty top-tier 80 carries that you can win with in this meta. So that's the thing to keep in mind, is 80 carries are not dead. There's just some competition from other roles. They're not taken over. It's not like, all the bruisers are 80% win rate and all 80 carries are 30% win rate. It's just more diversity, and ultimately that's good for the game. I think it's more exciting to watch. It makes it more competitive from a strategic standpoint. Coaches and analysts matter more than ever. Some players that are 80 carries may not like it as much, but other players are loving it. So I think it's good. It's good to shake up the game. I think it's interesting. Yeah, it's kind of annoying in solo queue, right? If you get this troll stuff bottom. But honestly, don't you get trolled with meta picks bottom anyways? Don't you get that Twitch that goes 1-10, or that Misfortune who goes like 0-6 and rage quits out of the game, even if they're playing a standard champion? People who underperform are still just going to underperform. And that's just all there is to it. I've heard people saying, I can't climb in this chaotic meta, and blah, blah, blah. And I just want to say, were you climbing anyways before the meta? Were you suddenly, this season you'd gone up 5 divisions and all of a sudden you can't climb anymore? I mean, there might be people like that. But I think a lot of people, just are looking for more excuses, right? Like, there's going to be underperforming people no matter what the meta is. That's what carrying means. You have to be better than everyone around you if you want to climb. If you're the same as everyone around you, you're just going to stay where you are, right? So you have to overperform, right? It's not good enough to say, well, I'm better than these people. You have to be better consistently all the time, and you will climb. So anyways, I understand the frustration. It just seems a lot more conspicuous when you're losing bot lane because there's something goofy down there. But realistically, you were probably losing bot anyways, on people who were on meta champions, because it just happens in solo queue a lot. Okay, so that's it. 80. I think I like the stuff. I think it's looking good so far for the most part. Enchanters, tanks, and AP supports are relatively balanced now, which is great for the support role. Because they are still enchanters. Janna's still 51% win rate. It's not the end of Janna. I've had some people, in comments saying, okay, I got to quit this game because Janna's unplayable. No, she's not. She's just not 55% anymore. She's not like must pick, must ban every single game. She's still viable. 51%, still pretty good. A lot of tanks would kill to have a 51% win rate. Braum or Tom Kench would murder somebody to have a 51% win rate in solo queue. But yeah, so she's still alright. And then Nami's still kind of at the top of the roost. She's an enchanter. Morgana's still really good. So yeah, I mean, the top 3 slots are still enchanters, but now you've got Alistar creeping up. He's very good with these non-traditional bot lanes. He's at about 51%, which is very good for Alistar. Zillion has a fairly low play rate, but he's creeping up a little bit. Fiddlesticks has been rising in popularity quite a bit, so he's the highest AP champion right now. And then, or at least on their ranking system here. Let's look at win rates. It's probably a better way to do it. There we go. So yeah, Fiddle's up there. If you look at the top win rates, like Brand's up there, Zyra's up there. It says 3 AP champs. So if you look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all of these have over a 2% play rate. So of the top 10 enchanters, we have 1, 2.5. Count Taric as a half. 3.5. Count Morg as another half. So that's like basically 4. Pretty much 4 enchanters. And then Janna's like right behind. So we still have some enchanters, but we also have 1, 2, 3, 4 like AP or damage oriented type of champs. If you call Zillion damage, that's like 5. And then tanks are still kind of lagging behind, but we've got Taric, Blitz, and Alistar not that far behind. Leona is about a 50% win rate again. And tanks are always going to be a little behind in solo queue because it just takes coordination. Like, if you engage and your team just sits there and watches you and you're in silver, you're probably going to die, right? So just structurally, tanks are always going to be the lowest win percent champs in almost every meta in the support role. But even they are getting some pretty good representation, right? So I think this is the most balanced support meta we've had in a long time because you can play tanks, you can play enchanters, and you can play AP champions right now, and they're all pretty decent in their own situation. So I think that's good. If you want to know more about the support tier list, I've got that linked, and I also linked the alternate bot. If you want to know why is this alternate bot going on, why are we seeing all this weird stuff right now, is it good for the game, why or why not? Obviously, I said I thought it was good, but if you want to hear my explanation for why I think it's good and what it means moving forward, be sure to check out that video. It's been super popular for my channel. It's got like 13,000 views in less than a week. That's really good for my channel. Most of my guides get like, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 views. Except for my one trait guide. That's got like 150,000. That's like insanely popular for some reason. I guess it just got caught up in the SEO rankings and people find it. But anyways, this has been popular and a lot of people have given a lot of positive feedback. They said that's really helped them understand. So be sure to check that out if you're interested. Okay. I think that excessive true damage is still a problem in the game, though, and, I'm looking at you, Master Yi, but also, like, Irelia, Darius, Camille, like, a lot of these problematic champions are difficult to balance. A lot of it is because they deal true damage, so they get around tanks, and I know that's kind of the purpose of true damage, but Like, where it gets problematic is where you have some tanks that have true damage versus other tanks, or not necessarily tanks, but tanky champs that have true damage versus other champs. I think they should have to build damage and build penetration if they want to get through tanks. You know, I feel like it's as simple as that, because when you have these champions that do a lot of mixed damage like Irelia plus true damage, it just makes it almost impossible to like counterplay that, because what do you get? Like, what do you build to stop her from killing you? I mean, you pretty much just have to kill her, like, that's it, and that's hard when she just gets one item, Trinity Force, and then builds all like tank hybrid items like Titanic Hydra and Sterix and all of that stuff. It's just too good at everything. Like, it's too good versus assassins, too good versus other fighters and tanks. You know, you shouldn't just be able to go one build every single game no matter what. You should have to think carefully about what's the enemy doing and how do I need to itemize. And yeah, you could say, but she has to change her build around sometime. Maybe, sometimes. But I'd say like 90% of the time, she's going some version of Trinity, Sterix, Titanic. And I know that a lot of people have standard builds. My point is just that she's good against everything. Camille is very similar mold, has true damage, has magic and AD damage in her kit, and just pretty much gets like one pure damage item and a bunch of damage off tank items, and just runs over the game. So I think that is a problem. I think they need to revisit true damage and true mitigation. So Irelia has both of those, and that's super toxic. Where what I mean is her true mitigation on her W means that spells just don't do damage. Even if you have spell penetration, her W blocks a huge percentage of incoming damage, whether it's physical, magical, whether you have penetration or not. Unless it's true damage, then her W is blocking most of your damage, which I think is pretty toxic. So yeah, I think that's problematic. I think they need to revisit that a little bit, especially with Conquer in the game. Because I think I don't know, we are seeing a lot of tanks in competitive play still, Ornn, despite Conquer and things like that. So maybe Conquer is necessary to balance out things like Ornn and Shin that are really popular. So I guess that's an argument for that, but I don't know. I feel like it's something that needs some review. I think the funnel strat is somewhat toxic as well lately. I think Master Yi needs a nerf, mostly for solo queue. He's actually not that powerful in competitive. If we look at him, everyone's like, I watched a colleague, like Professor Akali, crying about this. Oh, it's all over with because Master Yi won a professional game. Like, no, it's not, dude. Watch more than one game. If we look at Yi here, he has a 17% win rate in the professional scene. 17. That strat gets stopped all the time. I think that's like, is that literally 1 in 11? It's 2 in 10. So yeah, that strat wins very, very rarely in the pro scene, okay? So it's not like it's completely ruining the pro scene. I will say, however, that these funneling type of strats, like the Nunu one also, Nunu Karthus, 29%, it's 2 and 5. People only pick Nunu when they have Karthus on their team most of the time. So yeah, like these popular funneling strats are just not really that effective. Now, I'm not sure how up to date this is, honestly, because I know I've seen Lulu more than once in the mid lane. So I don't know, like maybe they're a little delayed or something, or maybe that's not counting her correctly or whatever, but anecdotally I can tell you, watching a lot of these games, I haven't watched every single game, but a lot of them, this funneling strat does not work a lot of the time. However, I think it's kind of bad for viewership to an extent. It feels bad for pro players too, like when you have Faker on Taric mid lane and things like that. I mean, they're choosing to do that. I mean, statistically, it's not a problem. I just think it's like it feels bad. It just feels cheesy. I think the best way around this, and this would solve the jungler camping bottom as well, like I keep saying, is that I think you need to make farm junglers more powerful, and I think you need to make the jungle tougher. I think you need to make it take longer to clear, because right now I think that's one of the most toxic things, is that junglers can clear the jungle almost instantly, and then they have excess time. A lot of the top junglers clear it super fast. They have excess time to just sit around and camp lanes, and that decides games a lot of the time if they camp a lane, and they're not losing they're not losing enough opportunity cost. So I think that someone like, if Graves or Xin Zhao wants to go camp bottom lane, I think there should be a serious penalty if someone like Shyvana wants to just farm it up instead in the jungle, or you have some other jungler that can power farm. And so just make the jungle maybe a little more valuable to compensate for that and make it take longer to clear. And that would help stop this funneling strat too, because then they wouldn't have enough time to go clear the jungle and get back to their lane, or they would miss CS. That's how a lot of people stop this anyways. They pick a heavy pusher mid, and then they push in, and then they go invade and stop and attack the people with early game aggression who are trying to double farm the jungle. So that's how it stopped already. I think just magnifying this a little bit would help, but really, I don't think it's a massive problem. I just think it feels kind of weird. It feels kind of off to watch it, just like people who used to do, the lane swap meta, where people would just race and try to take towers quickly. It just feels a little off because, by and large, it's kind of uninteractive. Like, they just push the wave and just go farm. But like I said, it hasn't been that successful, and people have already developed counterplay to it. And it is interesting if you want to run double support and put all your eggs in one basket, pretty much. So, I don't know. It's okay. I just feel like that is different than the bot lane fiesta. I think the bot lane, people are still honestly playing bot lane. There aren't a ton of cheese strats there. Like, there's different champions, but it's still the same. You're trying to farm. It's a little more aggressive than it used to be, but I think that's a good thing, that people are actually dying in bot lane now instead of just farming off for 20 minutes. So I think that's healthy. It creates more action. It's fun to watch. It's fun to play. There are, different combinations in the bot lane. Like, now you even see things like Heimerdinger, Fiddlesticks bot lane. So I think that is actually good. That's fun. That's good. The funneling strat, though, I feel is at the bare minimum from a PR perspective, is not good, because it just feels dirty. When you watch it, it feels like you're breaking some rules or something. And I know innovation is key like that, but I feel like a lot of mid laners don't want to be relegated to support role, which is a thing in solo queue and even professionally to an extent, even though there is counterplay to it. So I don't know. I don't think it's a huge problem. I don't think they have to nerf it right away immediately, but I think the best way to nerf it is to just, and this would also help out with the jungle problem, junglers being too strong early still, I think, is just make the jungle tougher and give more rewards if you actually clear it. I think that's balanced. And then that would allow the farm junglers to have a little bit more day in the sun. I mean, Talia, I guess you could classify as a farm jungler. But, a lot of these other junglers are very gank-heavy, assassin type of junglers. Nocturne is his own little problem. I guess he's kind of a farm till 6 jungler, but Graves, Camille, they are nerfing Camille in this patch, but I think that champions like Graves, Camille, and Xin Zhao are just clearing their jungle too easily, too fast, and they're just too good at ganking early on, and it's causing a lot of problems. But anyways, so champions that I would like to see most nerfed as this patch unfolds are Yi, Talia, Irelia, Zoe, and Camille, and I think they are actually nerfing all those champions. I don't think they're nerfing Talia that much, though, which is kind of surprising. But anyways, let's go ahead and get in here. So yeah, overall, I think the meta's pretty healthy. It's all good. The funneling strat is the one thing that's a question mark. They might need to do a little something about that. I think the best way is just to make the jungle take a little longer to clear. I don't think they have to do anything fancy like limiting smite to one person on a team or anything like that. Just make the jungle a little tougher so that they lose additional experience in CS to the tower. Okay. Maybe, they could make the tower shots do more damage to minions. They could make it, well, that would be a really huge change if they made the tower shot kill melee minions in 2 hits as well as caster minions. I don't think they need to go that far. Just make the jungle take longer to clear. Okay, so let's start off talking about AAtrox just a little bit here real quick. I'm going to have a full video about him when he comes out, but just kind of my initial thoughts. He looks pretty good. I'm sure a lot of people have already watched all the videos to this so far. I went ahead and watched through them. I know someone on the channel, Tibbers, though, said he wasn't really comfortable calling her, Riven, but she's pretty close to Riven, man. Or he is. He's pretty close to Riven. He doesn't get the shields. He's a little different, but it's they're turning him into a high mobility fighter with combos. So whatever you want to call that, it's good. You know what? Whatever. We'll watch him for a little bit, and I'll just kind of comment on it. Oh, that's his ultimate. Okay, let's see the passive. Passive is just really basic. It's just like every 25 seconds he does a little bit of extra damage. And it shreds both healing and shielding. Which I'm worried they're going to implement this overall to all Grievous wounds over time against shields, which my problem with that is like healing kind of needs Grievous wounds because that health stays no matter what. Whereas shields are very temporary anyways. So anyways, that's another discussion, but I don't really like that design decision. Anyways. Okay, so this is kind of the Ribbon-esque. You get 3 different hits. They have different hitboxes. And each one has a little knock-up on it. So it does pretty good damage over time. You can move between each one, which is pretty good. Now this one basically, yeah, you just put this huge area in. It only works on one person, and it slows them, and if they stay in the area, it pulls them towards the middle. So if they don't have a dash, they're going to get pulled in. Which is pretty cool. Your E basically is a double dash, so it gives you mobility, and you can use it while you're casting your abilities. Yeah, so you can dash forward, and then it also gives you extra attack damage. And then the ultimate, pretty much you turn really big, you go really fast when you're outside of combat, you get extra AD, and then if you get killed, then you resurrect. Now one interesting thing about the new resurrection, we'll watch it when we watch the whole video here, which is like 40 seconds long, is you can actually move during the resurrection. This is one of the only stasis effects, I think, where you can move. So you can't attack, no one can target you, you can't take any damage, but you can move while you're in that stasis. So let's go ahead and watch. Okay, so you see how he jumped forward there. He landed that first hit. He jumped forward right there in midair to make sure he landed that E. I think that's pretty cool. He lands that, dashes in there, he's taking tower, goes in for the kill, dies, now he's moving. Okay. I'll give you some invincible. Hits him, moves midair to hit that, moves midair to get So, you know, he's not going to be as high of a skill cap as Riven, because Riven has a lot of under-the-hood stuff you have to do in terms of, you know, animation canceling and things like that. So, he's different, but he's the same genre of champion, which is like high-mobility combo fighter. So, overall, I mean, if we look at his numbers here, he's okay. I mean, I think he'll be strong. I just am not sure if he'll be, like, over-the-top, ridiculously overpowered. But if you're a good player on him, I think he can be good. I've played on the PBE several times with him. He doesn't strike me as something like, oh my god, that thing's unstoppable when you see him. He's in every game on the PBE. But he certainly can be powerful. So total damage, if you hit all of the combo, and I believe if you hit it, is that with the bonus? Maximum champion damage. Okay, so the minimum damage, so this is not, if you don't hit the, it's kind of like Darius's thing, where if you hit him with just the tip of it, there's like this last little layer. If you hit him with the outer layer, then it does more damage. So you are rewarded for not just running up all the way in their face, but staying a little bit back so that you can land that extra damage. So you get 281 damage with 300% AD scaling, which is pretty massive. You can get up to 450% scaling with 421 base damage if you do it all correctly, though, which is insane. I mean, that's going to one-shot a lot of people. Like, that's a lot of damage. Now, at early levels, it does have a much longer cooldown. Like, Riven's is always level 12, or 12-second cooldown, I think. This starts at 16 and goes to 12. And that's a common theme throughout all of his abilities. So they're all double-digit cooldowns. They're very long cooldowns. So he has, like, big moments of power when he's doing his combo and, like, moving around to make sure he gets the perfect hits with Umbral Dash. And, you know, he's got his stun. But he has, like, a massive like window of weakness, pretty much. So the chains, this is what you'll max last. It's a thing you throw down. It slows people. Does kind of low damage. It's okay. The Umbral you're pretty much getting for these dashes. Now it does heal you for 15% of your pre-mitigation physical damage. That's really important because that's even better than lifesteal, because lifesteal applies after armor. This applies before armor. So this is like true lifestealing pretty much, which once again probably kind of problematic, but that's pretty good. And that's physical damage too. That's not just lifesteal, that's physical damage. So that also applies to his Q. So you'd be healing for a ton off of that permanently. And you gain extra attack damage for 1.5 seconds, quite a lot, whenever you dash forward, whatever. So that gives you, since this has such crazy scaling, that's really, really nice. And then the World Ender, which is where he gets huge, he gains extra bonus movement speed. Now this only applies when he's out of combat, like 1 second when he first turns it on, and then if you're out of combat, then you get it. You gain increased size, okay, whatever. You get 20% of your total AD, not just bonus AD, but total. And it refreshes the bonus movement speed when you're out of combat. And then you gain so much of your maximum health over the first 10 seconds while you're like this. And then taking lethal damage gives you that revive where you're untargetable, pacified, and slowed. So basically, in order to get his passive, what is his passive now, where he resurrects, whenever you pop your ult, you automatically have that. So you're going to resurrect for some amount after that. Now, it has a really long cooldown of 160 seconds. That's a big deal. So, you know, I think in his window of power, if you end up taking all of the damage, if you don't counter him in some way or disengage him, then he's going to be really strong. He's going to have a lot of all-in pressure. But he's also going to have, you know, these massive areas of weakness. So if you look at someone like Riven, him compared to someone like Riven here, Riven has much lower cooldowns. Okay, so she has 13 static cooldown. But then as she levels up, like her Key Burst and her Valor, then that gives her a lot more sort of defense and mobility, especially like Valor. That gives her an extra dash there and shields her. And then this is like that little mini stun that she has. And then her ult's on a much lower cooldown. So Riven's going to have a lot more uptime, but she doesn't have the healing in there. I mean, they're different enough, but at the same time, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. So I think he'll be strong if you practice him. If you're good with him, he can be pretty good. But I don't think he's going to be overpowered right off the bat. We'll see, though. Okay, let's go through the actual changes here. Okay, so Camille, hookshot lowered, the damage lowered, good. She might need a little more nerf than that, but this will help out a little bit with her initial burst. So she's still going to have a ton of mobility. She's still going to have true damage in her kit. She's still going to be a complete beast once she gets Trinity Force. So, you know, I don't... You know, losing the 15 damage early is... I think this will matter a lot more early on than later, but... It does stop her from just, like, popping around and just one-shotting you, pretty much. She actually has to hit you a few times. So, I think that's good. Mundo, the bonus AD is lowered by quite a bit. 40 at max level. And the minimum's also lowered. So, I think that's good. He just does too much free damage right now. And he's just way too tanky. It needs to be one or the other. Like, if you're that tanky as he is, you need to not have that much damage. Unless you itemize for damage. So I think that's a good change. Gragas, W is lowered, cooldown 5 seconds already. This is pretty good. Now it's very clear that you should max this last, which is good. I think there was always a debate, well, should you max your, you know, which one of your abilities do you max? I think the E, I think, was the standard max, and then it was kind of debated between Q and W. But now you get a nice low cooldown on your W at all times. So I wish they'd bring back his old W that was gave him damage reduction and mana regen. But this is fine, I guess. I mean, I don't think he's going to make a huge splash. You know, you might see him in the support role occasionally. But I think there are probably better junglers out there. I don't know. This is definitely a pretty good buff, though, so we'll see if that goes through. Irelia, I don't think this is going to matter. Okay, so she has less base damage per stack. But she has a much higher... Oh, that's total AD to bonus AD. Okay. I was like, why did they straight buff that? Okay, so it's bonus AD. Okay, so that's a pretty sizable nerf then. But her attack speed gets increased. Okay. Damage minimum. Set. Okay. So they lowered the base. And lowered the ratios. A little bit. Lowered the AD ratio. I like this change. I mean, basically it's the same philosophy as Mundo, and that's what sort of marks a lot of toxic champions, is they do too much damage without buying any damage. Like, that's historically some of the most overpowered champions. Or they have a lot of defense without building any defense, but I think the damage without building damage is usually the most toxic kind of combination. And that's pretty much what Irelia has. So now they're saying, okay, look, if you want to deal damage here with your passive, then you need to actually buy some AD. And so I think that's a really good change. That's a good way to hit her. Do I think it's going to be enough? Probably not. But I'll have to run all the numbers on the official patch notes. Probably not. This is a fine change. She should never be able to hold her sword for that long. Like, drop it on the ground or whatever, and then just sit on it and just threaten people for 6 seconds. Like, that's way too long. It should have to... I think it should be like 3 seconds. You put it on the ground, and then you have to use it almost immediately. Because you can, like, just zone people off of, you know, a lot of stuff. This was a huge problem with Twisted Fate back in the days. He used to be able to hold that gold card up for like 6 seconds or some amount, and then they lowered it because he could just sit there and threaten. So I think that's better. Jarvin, pretty dangerous buff. Jarvin was a dominant, overpowered jungler for like 14 patches last season, and he just hasn't... I'm not exactly sure why he disappeared. I think he just doesn't have good runes and items. They did nerf a couple of his abilities a little bit, but this definitely helps. So it's kind of like what they did up here with Gragas, is they're saying, okay, we're definitely like nudging you to say 1 point in this. Because they're lowering its cooldown a lot. And they're increasing its base damage. So, you know, every champion, really, especially in this meta, needs a 1 point wonder. Like, they need an ability they can put 1 point in, and it's very efficient. You know, some of the older champions or some of the more poorly balanced champions really want you to put multiple points into all of the abilities to have them be effective. Lulu's kind of, you know, the support that I always think of most with this, right? Like, you want points in everything as Lulu. Your Q, your W, and your E all need a lot of points to be effective. So, changing something to a flat cooldown is kind of like a wink and saying, look, only 1 point in this most of the time. This is how they helped Leona, too, quite a bit. Because Leona used to, you know, you'd always max your W, but then it was like, okay, do you max your E or your Q? And then they said, look, we're going to make your Q the same cooldown at all levels, so you max your E. I think that's what they're doing here. So I guess that's a pretty good buff. Jarvin is cool. I mean, when he's balanced, like, he does offer some very unique tactical, you know, applications. You know, trapping people in. It's like good counterplay to Olaf and, you know, some of these other immobile champs. So I think Jarvin being like a relevant pick in a game is good. I just don't want him to run up and just like one-shot everybody and have virtually no counterplay. Dangerous buffs to Kassadin. This champion's super toxic when he's really good because he gets that huge shield. AP shield, but there's so many AD champs and AD assassins running around, I guess that's okay. So giving him a little buff, and that's alright. Kindred, whatever. I don't think this is going to fix her problem. It will give her some more sustain, I think. Like, it doesn't reduce monster attack speed anymore, but it does give her some sustain. It's just not going to matter. She just has poor runes, poor itemization. Master Yi is the total joke, I think. So yeah, they removed the bonus. So pretty much they lowered the cost a lot. They removed the extra damage to minions, so they're slowing down his farming, but I mean, maybe that'll matter. I don't know. How much does his Alpha Strike bonus do to minions right now? Let me see. Non-champion damage. Okay. That's actually quite a lot to non-champions. That's quadruple damage. Received increased damage. It doesn't say how much, but that's a lot, right? Am I reading that right? It's quad. It's quadruple damage. Okay, that's actually a really big deal. Yeah, I mean, he's going to have a hard time clearing raptors and golems and things like that without this. I just don't think that... I don't know. Maybe that's enough to slow him down. I just feel like it's this right here, this active that gives you true damage for 5 seconds, and the fact that it interacts with Double Strike and Guinsoo's. They are nerfing Guinsoo's pretty hard lower, so maybe the nerf to Guinsoo's and the nerf to Alpha Strike is enough. Okay, well that's more than I thought. I thought it was like, okay, he deals 50% extra damage to minions or something. I was like, whatever, he's going to clear it. It's like, no, he does 400% more damage to minions. Or whatever, 300%. 300% extra damage. Okay, so that's pretty legit. Nunu, I mean, I really don't think the Nunu Karthus thing is that insane. Like, at least in pro play, it just always seems to flop. There's so many different ways to counterplay that. Like, Karthus is so vulnerable to assassins. Like, Nunu is so weak in the jungle. If they get invaded, people can just beat them up. Like, Hourglass counterplays that. Tom Kench counterplays it. You know, just heals and shields can counterplay it. Like, Soraka can counter... Like, there are just so many different counters to Karthus right now, I think. Like, can it work? Sure, but... I just think Nunu's really sad. It was kind of cool to see that he had, like, something he could do, but... They just need to just rework his Q and just, like, make him a support already. I don't know. That's what I think. I think Blood Boil is a cool, you know, ability. Like, he's got a decent kit. It's just... he just needs a little more help. Ornn, like, what? They lowered his base regen by, like, 0.4? What? Ornn is amazing right now in solo queue, or in pro play. I mean, 54% win rate, and he's the most played champion by a lot in the top lane. So yeah, I think he's pretty overpowered right now in the top lane. I think, is he even seeing some like support play? I can't remember. Oh, I thought I saw Vhagar near the top. Okay, it's not. It was Alistar. I saw someone purple. Yeah, he's seeing a little bit of pro play. So anyways, I don't know necessarily if Ornn needs to get nerfed again, but he seems a little strong. So I would probably nerf a little bit more than just his base. Okay, Pyke. Like, they're lowering his health, but they are also... increasing his magic resistant armor. I mean, that makes stacking magic resistant armor a little less valuable. But I think this is a pretty big buff. So, like, bonus 80 ratio on his E. Okay, so the base damage is lowered from So early on, it's the same. It's just up when you max it out, which is this is the second thing that you max. It's going to be down 30, but you get 30% extra bonus AD. So if you just even have 100 bonus AD, which is like, I don't know, Duck's Blade plus like some runes and, you know, a little bit more, just a couple more items. Like, I feel like it's really easy to get to by the time you're level 13 and you max out your E. So yeah, that seems like a pretty huge buff to me. Especially early on, when you only have like a couple of points in this and you're still getting this extra 30% AD. So that's a big deal. And then the death from below, the execute damage is only down 10 early on. But you get a 20% ratio. So once again, if you have like 100 AD, it starts to balance out. Now later on, like this is down 50 at max level. So you would have to have, you know, like 200. Like 250. So that's a lot of AD. So I don't know. So this is definitely a little bit of nerf to the R. The E, I think that's a buff. I don't know. I think it's net neutral. So they want people to move away from, you know, tank Pyke, and they want him to build more damage, which that's probably okay. I think that's good change, and it's fine. I think if you still go like Cleaver plus Dustblade, it should feel similar for most of the game. Alright, Riven. Extra AD from 20% to up to 30%. That's really good for late game Riven. So she needs a little help. I think she's pretty weak overall for most people. Aside from like really good Riven mains. Singed. Who cares? His fling does a little bit less damage. Sanity Potion, you get like a little bit less stats at level 6, but the rest is the same. You get more stats later. They had tested a change that was going to make his Poison Trail cost like 17 per second instead of 11, which would have been huge. I personally don't think Singe is that much of a problem. So many Singe that I see are just really bad in solo queue. I know he has a high win rate. You know, he has one of the highest win rates top lane, but I mean, he does have a good win rate in pro play as well. Yeah, I mean, 56% win rate, so I don't know. He's okay. I don't think he's that problematic, so I guess just a little slap on the wrist is probably fine. Now, Taric, they are nerfing. Pretty decent chunk here. So they want him to have to buy more armor to scale on his damage. His damage is a lot on his E. Let's be real. I mean, 285 base damage is really high. So he does a little bit less damage, so less free damage. Fine. That's not Taric's main role, is to do damage. Then lowering his, or increasing his ult cooldown by 20 seconds is pretty massive. So I think it's going to hurt him a lot for solo queue. Especially this 20 seconds at the end. But they're trying to give people more windows of power to exploit if they put him middle, pretty much, with a hyper carry jungler. So that'll probably work here. It's okay. It kind of sucks for support Taric that he's getting punished for mid lane Taric, but he does have a really good win right now. You know, not like over the top, but it's good. You know, statistically, where is he? Yeah, 52.5%. So yeah, it's not as high as Nami, not as high as Zyra, but he, you know, he's just having to pay the price for mid lane Taric, I think. So that is a little unfortunate. I do like Taric. His kit is fun. But yeah, it's just what they're doing, I guess. And it's probably necessary to try to check the Yi Taric, even though it's not winning a lot. They just really want to discourage people from doing that, I think, which I can't blame them. It just feels unsettling to watch it. Explosive Charge gets some extra bonus AD damage. It's not going to matter. That's not her problem. Like, she just doesn't have a good item path without Infinity Edge. And I think that line is still really bad. She could go something like a Blatherin King, but really, like, you need to be able to build just non-crit items to be good right now as AD carry, and I just don't think that she can pull that off. So we'll see, right, Sadie? Is that right? So we'll see. I don't think it's going to matter. Now, this very much could matter for old Twitch here, getting an extra 25% to 35% total AD on his Contaminate. I think, is that on each stack of Deadly Venom? Yeah, that's what it looks like. So that's not the base damage, that's the per stack damage. That's a lot of extra damage. You want to think of it like that. You know, I think it stacks up to 6 times. It's something like that. Yeah, that's a lot of damage. I think Twitch is actually, like, you know, undercover really good right now. Like, not like, you know, I think that Lucian, Draven, Kaisa are all a little bit better, but I think that he is pretty good in the right kind of comp. If they don't pressure you early, if they're trying to run a couple of, you know, bruisers or mages and they're just going to have a farm off bot lane or something, you're facing a Vlad, something like that, he is very scary. And he still has a good itemization path with Blatherin King into Hurricane, still really, really good on him. So it's a pretty dangerous buff. Pretty dangerous. Vlad just got shanked on his base health, minus 60. That is brutal. I mean, he's squishier than, he's like squishier than Soraka or something, level 1. So you can definitely all-in this guy level 2 now. But he is strong, so I guess they're just trying to hit his health. So I don't know. We'll see. That seems like a pretty big nerf. That's pretty massive. That's like, what is that? Let me see. It's like an 11% nerf to his overall health. Seems pretty big. Anyways, we'll see. I think he'll still be viable. And Zoe needs a lot more nerfs than this. Like, they're lowering her move speed that she gets off a W. I mean, that is a pretty good amount. And they're lowering the duration slightly. I feel like her W is just too much. Like, the damage is too high. She's just too strong. She's going to keep being too strong, I think. There's just, the problem is she has so much free damage. She doesn't have to hit her skill shots. You can just, like, R onto people. You know, Spell Thief, and just hit them with, like, your Sparkles or whatever, your passive. They need to either nerf her passive or nerf the damage on her W more. It needs to be, you have to hit your skill shots. You have to hit W to one-shot people. Not like, oops, I accidentally hit them with a Q even though I missed with W and one-shot them. Or just, they're at half health, I just R onto them and just roll my hand across the keyboard and kill them. You need to be able to hit. They need to give her, like, the RE treatment, basically, with Charm. Like, if you hit that bubble, you have enough damage to one-shot them. If you don't, you have quite a bit of guaranteed damage with your R, your passive, and your W. But it's not going to be enough to kill them, unless you're, like, mega fed. And that's just not the case right now. It just does too much damage. Okay, they're still not bringing back Atmas and Spirit of Sojin. It's a good idea. Fighters are on the strong side right now. Infinity Edge are lowering by 100. It's not going to matter. It's still a really, really weak item. It's overpriced for what it is. They need to lower the cost on the Zeal items by an extra 100, and then we can talk. The problem is, like, it's not just Infinity Edge ended up costing 300 more. It's that every Zeal item, not Phantom Dancer, but, like, Static Shiv and Rapid Fire all cost 300 more. So when you assemble the full thing, the Static, Rapid Fire, Infinity Edge, is 900 more gold, which is way too much. I think each one of those, Infinity Edge maybe 200 more, which is what they have now, and then the Static and Rapid maybe 100 more a piece. 200 max a piece more. So yeah, they need to lower the cost on the Shiv items a little bit, or on the Zeal items, I mean to say. Okay, Essence Reaver. It's good when it's good, but it's just not, it's very niche. You're just not seeing it on any champions hardly. So what they're doing is they're lowering the time on it, but they're increasing the attack speed. It's just so many champions, like, have to use their ult for different utility purposes. Like, Xayah can get this, but she really doesn't want to have to use her ult to start a fight, right? Or like Lucian can use his culling to start a fight, but usually you want to do that to, end a fight, or you just want to have that in your back pocket for weird situations. So it just feels bad on most champions except for like Renekton. So this is basically a nerf to Renekton because it doesn't last as long, but it's going to be a buff to champions like Xayah and Lucian, even though it's like feels kind of weird on them. So overall, kind of neutral, very niche item. Like Kai'Sa doesn't get it really because she kind of needs to get the Guinsoo's Nasher Deathcat build, I think. Although after this nerf to Guinsoo's, you might see her get something like Essence Reaver more. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, this is a pretty massive nerf to Guinsoo's. It's going from 4% per stack to 2.5%. So that's like taking it down from 24% bonus AP and bonus AD down to 15% bonus AD and AP, which is a lot. That is a big deal. I don't know if people can get this anymore. And it's going to be a huge nerf to Kai'Sa. It's a big nerf to Yi. But, I mean, the biggest nerf is probably to Kai'Sa because she benefits from both the AP and the AD, whereas Yi really doesn't get anything out of the AP, I don't think. It's also, obviously a nerf to, like, Varus and Kog'Maw, who aren't seeing a lot of play anyways. I think this is intended to nerf Yi. I would just nerf Yi directly, and because I don't think Kai'Sa's a problem right now. I think she's balanced. She's pretty good, but, like, in pro play, she's only at, like, 52%. In solo queue, she's at, like, 49% or something. Yeah, she's at, like, 49%. I think they've nerfed her enough. I don't know. That's gonna hurt. The thing is, that's gonna make Lucian just, like, way too strong. There's not gonna be anyone else that can stand up to him. So yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's gonna hurt Guinsoo users a lot, a whole lot. So we'll see. Yeah, I think that's probably a little over the top. That's gonna kill an entire class of champions. So it's basically gonna be who can build like Blade the Ruined King. Because right now it's basically like you can either build Guinsoo's or Blade the Ruined King, and those are like the two best starting items. So we'll see. Storm Razor is getting extra 5 AD, which is good. This is kind of a trap item. I see a lot of people getting this item, and it's like it's good on some champions who want to end fights quickly, but people are like using this to substitute as like a big ticket item. I don't know. The 5 AD will help in getting the movement speed for an extra however long, or getting double the movement speed will be helpful, but this just favors, like, this favors Draven, who's already strong. Like, Twitch could maybe get this. I mean, obviously Jhin would like something like this, although they changed, like, how his fourth shot interacts with this. It's pretty good on Jhin. I mean, this is good. It's good, overall. It's a good buff. Halo Blades is still going to be garbage, I think. Cooldown lowered from 5 seconds to 4 seconds out of combat. Time between attacks. Like, if this was in the precision tree, it might be viable. It's just, like, it's in the domination tree. And it's a lot of champions in the domination tree who want to go in there aren't going to be wanting attack speed stuff. You know, they want burst damage. Right, Sadie? Sadie, what? She's, like, so freaked out by this pen right now. She has a weird relationship with pens. Not right, Sadie? You offended? Like, she likes smelling them. She's like, oh, it's interesting. And then I can, like, pet her with it, but then sometimes she just gets real, like, weirded out by it. Anyways. Swap cooldown reduction increased. Wait, is this a buff or a nerf? What does this do? Swap one of your equipped summoner spells. Each unique summoner spell you swap permanently decreases your swap cooldown by 20 seconds. Okay. So it's a buff. Huh. It's interesting. I haven't really seen a lot of use for this. This is really cool, but it's something you'd have to have like a really specific like planned strategy to use it. It's interesting. I like it. I'm for the buff. I think it sounds good. It's interesting. So good. I like that. Okay, so that's going to be it. So we got this done in about an hour, which is nice. So overall, I think the meta's pretty good. I don't think there are that many out-of-line champions. I think Talia jungle, I'm really surprised that didn't get hit. I expect sometime over the next week they've got to hit this somewhere. Like this is just way too strong. Master Yi, I would expect to get hit more. His jungle clear did get hit a lot, and Guinsoo's is his first item. Well, I guess he gets the jungle item upgraded, but Guinsoo's, that nerf is going to hit him quite a lot, but we'll see. We'll see. Yi might be okay after this. Like I said, statistically, he's not like running away with it or anything. Even in solo queue, like in pro play, you know, you had that 17%, but like even in solo queue, 51%, you know, he's just a feels bad. Like if you're on the receiving end of a Yi who just goes off, he just feels really bad. Like he just feels very imbalanced. But I mean, that's kind of how he is hyper carrying. But there are other hyper carries that just don't feel that ridiculous, like Jax. Very strong, but he doesn't like completely make you disappear, like an entire team disappear instantly. Even though he's very strong, like Camille, very strong, but it just doesn't feel as bad. That's just the way I can describe it. It's just like it's just a total feels bad when a guy has 2 items and deletes your entire team. Anyways, so yeah, overall, I think the meta is pretty good. There are a couple of corner cases. They are nerfing Yi. They are nerfing Irelia. They're indirectly... they're leaving Talia alone, which seems weird. There's nerfing Zoe. Probably needs more. Talia's... That's a good place to start. Yeah, AAtrox going to be... He'll be good. He'll be good. I don't think he'll be too overpowered. And then some of the, you know, underloved champions getting a little love, you know, like Riven, Jarvin, Cass, and they're kind of just touching on some of the things that have been problematic, like Nunu, Taric. And they're doing this primarily because of the funneling strat, when I think they should just change the jungle overall. But overall, good. I think the patch has been really cool so far. It's been a lot of fun. I like the changes they're making. I think they're, you know, moving in the right direction. So overall, good stuff. Yep. So that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Remember, if you like this content, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can find the rest of the content on the channel and help other people find it as well. And I'll see you next time. Have a good day.